Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a Conscious Baking Collective. I am feeling really excited to have amongst us Anusha, the CEO of Linui. Hope I pronounce it correctly. You're going to correct me. I feel proud to see young women entrepreneurs taking charge of offering such premium quality chocolates and desserts. This is definitely going to be a game changer. So Anusha is a chocolatier and founder of Linui, whose vision is to imprint unadulterated happiness of chocolates and desserts in the hearts and the taste bud of each Bangalorean. A very warm welcome, Anusha. Thank you for taking out time and connecting with Conscious Baking Collective. We all would love to know more about you, Linui, and how your passion for that perfect chocolate bite got converted you into an entrepreneur at such a young age.
Thank you, Ava. Thank you again for inviting me here. I think this is one of my first Facebook live sessions, so bear with me. Um, well, um, this journey started around 8 years, 8.5 years ago, while I was doing my masters abroad. I had the chance to visit Bruges on a weekend, and while strolling in the bylanes of Bruges, since I don't drink beer, I went into one of these small chocolateries there, picked up a hot chocolate, and sipped it. First sip, second sip, third sip, I was floored. I was like, wow, what is it? Because it was so unlike what I had ever tasted here. Either it was made of syrup or cocoa powder. But what I had there was decadent Belgian chocolate, which melted into the milk, and I was blown away. I carried a couple of sticks back home, back to my dorm. Then, when my mother visited me during the break, we went around Spain, and I carried that along. It came as a part of the baggage. And then, mom sipped, and my mom tried it, and she sipped it, and she's like, she was blown away. And I'm like, wow, it's not just my experience; it's generally whoever is having the chocolate is reacting to it, and that kind of created curiosity in me. Whereas I wanted to bring that wow factor, that experience factor back home. So I kind of researched, I dug in, and I realized that again, fortunately, India was the fastest, or I think it still is the fastest growing chocolate market in the world. So having that, and the trend was towards premium chocolate. So again, I dug deeper. I found that the main difference between, I mean, we all look forward to a box of chocolate from people coming from Europe.
Right.
That mouthfeel was so different. Even I, as a child, I really didn't know why I would really not like chocolates made here, but invariably would look forward to someone coming from, Europe, and I would be like, I would really want to try them. So the main difference, like you'll already know, was the chocolate itself, the ingredient that goes into the chocolate. So chocolate, basically, the main ingredient that lends itself the character to chocolate is cocoa butter. So this gets substituted, which I will talk later in the show, it with vegetable fats because of various factors, and that kind of changes the whole character of the chocolate. So, having realized that, when I came back to India, I said, okay, now that I've decided I need to make chocolate, what how would I do it? Because I soon realized that the ingredients was not easily available. So the task, I mean, the daunting task of 8 years, I'm talking about 8.5 years ago. Now, of course, couverture is easily available. There are other ingredients that is easily available. Back then, 8.5 years ago, I think we were one of the first few chocolateries who kind of came up with couverture chocolate, pure cocoa butter chocolates. So that's how my journey began.
Okay, that sounds like my mouth is watering right now. Yeah, it would have been such a great experience, like just taking that sip of hot chocolate, and you will be like, "Wow, I have never had such thing before." Yeah.
But the good news is, Abba, we make the exact same chocolate. So sometimes I say, I tell people, like, Probably the only other place you'll find this is in Belgium.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, I have tried your pastries, and yeah, I'm a big fan of your pastries,
Thank you.
especially the chocolate truffle and the raspberry. Uh, yeah. So let's get to the crux of the conversation. You have been in the chocolate and baking industry, as you said, for past 8.5 years. What does Linui stand for, and what is the main idea behind your venture, the startup?
So, Linui means something extraordinary and rare. So, how we started, I mean, the whole premise of starting this was I need to I need to offer something to the customers which I myself would consume and give it to my children, perhaps, because ultimately you are what you eat. So, from basing the ingredients to making them, we follow a policy of zero toleration for adulteration, which means we do not use any ingredients which we would not consume or which is harmful for the health, which compromises the health of the consumer.
Mhm.
So, be it, for example, the biggest challenge that the baking world faces is the whipping cream in
Yeah.
India.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this easily gets substituted and with non-dairy. Basically, it's so harmful. It's as good as eating 2 tablespoons of oil, right? So, but we at Linui do not use anything other than dairy. So you take any of our cakes, it is 100% dairy. The reason why, I mean, I do not really, the main thing I think is because people find it difficult to source the ingredient. Like, for example, whipping dairy cream is not made in India because the Indian cows do not produce the fat content required for whipping cream.
Mhm.
So, what I mean, the easiest substitute that's available is non-dairy,
Right.
cheapest as well. So, there is a lot of compromise.
Yeah.
So these things are something that I mean, the extra mile, the premise of the company is to walk the extra mile, go all the way out, pull out all the stops. So how we decide on whether the product is going to go on the shelves or not is the chef comes up with the recipe. We see the ingredients. If the ingredients are available as per our policy, that is without compromise from the source, and it can be procured easily, that's the time we approve it, and then it goes for trials.
Yeah. So just now this thing came in my mind. It must have been a challenge for you to, put those chefs, unlearning everything, because they have been working with compound chocolate. It doesn't need any tempering. You just have to melt it and use it. So how did you work with the chefs?
It's an interesting question because I have some interesting stories also to tell you regarding that. When we started interviewing and we got applications from a lot of people, a lot of chefs who work with very good places. So I asked very simple questions. So I had told them, okay, give me the recipe for making a vanilla cake, and the recipe is given and all that, and then I see cake gel. Then I asked them, what is this cake gel? No, ma'am, this cake gel is something that you use to make the cake fluffier, nicer, tastier, and it looks really big. I said, okay, but do you know what goes into the cake gel? They don't know. They really don't know. And it's the same with a lot of other ingredients as well. A lot of people don't know what a non-dairy whipping cream is versus a dairy whipping cream. It's like this. Even the bread, bread can, when you're making bread, you use ingredient. I've just written it for the cysteine. Yeah, cysteine. So you use cysteine, right? And a lot of people don't know what cysteine is made of. They say the cysteine softens the bread, but
Mhm.
what is it made of? No
Mhm.
one knows. So I think the main turning point is to educate our bakers, our chefs, so that they know what is the ingredient that is, what is the composition of the ingredient itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you asked me, coming back to your question, when this unlearning process has been the biggest challenge, because a lot of people, so if you use Kuwaiti chocolate, it melts at body temperature. So you need to really know how to temper it, how to, bring it in the right form, use the other ingredients that support it. So it's a challenge, Ava. It's really a challenge. And the best part I've realized is it's not rocket science. It just needs your commitment, saying, okay, you are going to stick to it no matter how difficult the journey is going to be.
Yeah, that's true. When you say Belgian chocolates, um, so how do you source the chocolates? Because yeah, in India, the weather is is the major challenge when you're using and especially when you're getting the supply of those chocolates. So, so how do you manage that part, the logistic part of it?
So it's, I mean, initially it was very difficult, to be very candid. It was a challenge, but now after 8 years, we've done it. We've tried, tested trial methods, everything so far works. Now we have, before we used to get it directly from Belgium itself. Now we have our other sister concern that looks after the imports. So it makes it very, for us, it makes it very easy.
Okay, okay, that's nice. So, what's the biggest difference between a Belgian chocolate, and there are quite a lot of chocolates that are coming in India also now. Like people have started manufacturing chocolates. Farmers have started growing cocoa bean. It's really coming up now. So, what's the major difference between the process of chocolate making uh, in Belgium versus in India?
Um, it's like we Indians making laddus, right? Like chocolate making is an art, right? It's when you see the Europeans making chocolate, the authentic, the classic ones. It's a mom and pop store. There are the founders are right behind in the kitchen making chocolates, rolling the truffles. It's an amazing experience to just watch them. They take so much pride in it. The art, it's almost like a form of, they're creating a masterpiece. That so that's the kind of passion that goes into making chocolates, right?
Mhm.
So the major difference between the chocolate that you get from Belgium, see, India has the potential to make its own chocolate, but we are not yet there in terms of making the authentic chocolate, because the main process, like conching, the ingredients, the temperature plays a very key role. Though Europe does not produce the cocoa beans, cocoa beans is sourced from all over across all the like Venezuela, Caribbean, but they process the cocoa bean there. And I think the main important ingredients, like the milk, the sugar, and the cocoa solids, how they bind it together makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
And that art, I think India may in the future, slowly incorporate or
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah, it's like you buy cinnamon from Sri Lanka and you buy cinnamon from some other place. Obviously, the flavor is going to be different. So
Absolutely.
to get the same quality and same taste is yeah, it is difficult. Um, so so when you're working with dairy cream, so you even import the dairy cream. You don't use the because we need that certain content. The percentage of fat should be above 30% for to get those peaks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So so while getting the dairy cream, so initially you might have faced some problems, like they might have gone bad, or like how it was that time and how it is now.
So when we started, now if you walk into Nature's Basket also, you'll find dairy whipping cream, right?
Hmm.
But when we started, we had to get them from France or Italy. and the supply we had to ensure was consistent, because we were in Phoenix Market City, and the mall, the sales was touchwood, it was very good. So we kind of had to ensure that there's consistent supply. It was challenging, and in terms of wastage, in terms of you asking me whether it had to be stored correctly, that I think we kind of figured it while we did about 8 months of trials, because though we wanted to offer something very authentic to the Indian consumers, we know that Indian palate is very, very different. They like things in a certain way, be it chocolate, be it anything. Indian palate likes things in a certain way. So we had to find the right balance between appeasing the Indian palate while maintaining the authenticity of the product itself. So we ran trials for about 8 months. And in this 8 months, we had a lot of learnings in terms of not only the Indian tastes and preferences, in terms of the processes, how it should be done, how we should kind of to bring down the cost, basically, without compromising the ingredients. The method of baking, the method of storing, all plays a very crucial role in getting the product out at the right price.
Okay. Okay, so Priya is asking, I think this is relevant right now, what I asked. What do you think Indian beans and Indian bean to bar chocolate? Instead of importing, would you ever like to source chocolate from Indian manufacturers?
Why not? I mean, of course, why not? If it matches up to the quality in terms of the taste, as well as in terms of the ingredients that goes into the chocolate itself, making the raw chocolate. Like when you're converting bean to bar, there are other things that you use in the chocolate. If it can stand up to the quality that we're currently using, we would definitely. But right now, I'm not sure. Like I'm not saying we've tried everything, but whatever we've tried, uh, nothing has come very close to what
Okay.
we're using.
Mm-hmm. So, do you feel there is more awareness among customers now when it comes to choosing better ingredients in cakes and chocolates in general, like what it was like 5 years back?
Absolutely, yeah. Like before, when we started, no one would, I mean, they would ask couverture, what is couverture? What is compound? Now people know, people are, I mean, they've traveled. As Indians, we have progressed a lot in terms of our taste, our choice. We no more settle for the average. We have discerning customers who want the best, who want something, even if they are not going to have. So it's like this. Even if you're not going to have a kilo of the cake, you would want a slice of it, but you're going to have the best. You don't want to compromise on it. So that's the right now, that's the mood of the consumer.
Right. Yeah, it's a win-win situation, right? You are eating less, you are taking the taste of the best, and yeah, you're good to go.
Yeah, and you're also, you're not spending, I mean, it's like this, you are what you eat. At the end of the day, you definitely, whatever you consume, it becomes a part of you. So you might as well consume the best, even if it is not there in large quantities.
Mm-hmm. Sure, sure. Yeah, I agree. So how crucial is choosing the raw ingredients for your products? So you were talking about the zero tolerance policy, and I think uh, this session and even the community conscious baking collective is all about zero tolerance policy, and we really have to put in that word that we have to stop using adulterated ingredients. We have to stop using hydrogenated fats, emulsifiers, and all the chemical additives that go in each and every dessert. Uh, so how how do you make sure, especially when your employees are there, and how you make sure that whatever is going in the cake that time uh, works well for you as well as the customer?
So we have a procurement team, right? And each and every ingredient that we use in the kitchen is run by me. Like there is no ingredient in the kitchen that is not approved by me and the core team, right? So be it from the colors, the natural colors that we source, to the cream, to the chocolate, everything is very well defined. That's what has taken us like 8 years. This journey has been very consistent and very I mean, we've learned a lot. It didn't start this way. I mean, when 8 years back, if you had asked me, okay, where would you do this? Why would you do this? I wouldn't have an answer. Now that we have defined each and every process so that our customer, whoever is the consumer, whoever is eating it, gets the best. Like sometimes, sometimes there are a lot of disheartening incidents also. Like sometimes people say our cake was very dry. There is it's very firm. So like other bakers in the market, we do not soften it with sugar syrup, and we use almond flour in the cake versus just maida. So it obviously makes the cake very firm. So how do we commit the communication? There was a lot of communication that was missing from what we did and what the consumer got, right? They didn't know why the cake, because we were so used to gooey cakes. We were so used to soft, the definition of fresh is equal to soft. So there were a lot of people who used a lot of things to get that, so we had to break it was a big challenge for us to get where we are today. We had to say, okay, there were times when, our chef used to walk in and say, ma'am, why don't we do this? It's okay. Consumer wants it. Let's do it. It's okay. Mm-hmm. And it was a very tough choice. And we said, no, if I did that, I would be lost. I would get lost in the group. Then what would differentiate me and someone else doing the same thing? Mm-hmm. So and believe me, Amir, it's the most difficult thing to do, to put your foot down and say, no, let's stick to it. There will come a time when things will be appreciated, and that patience, the long wait, it's bittersweet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we have to be the trendsetters and not trend followers, right? So I have seen the non-dairy whipping cream cakes. There's hardly any cake in the middle. It's mainly that, the whipped cream, and actually there is no taste into it. It is just sweet. There's no flavor to it. It is just, I can just, it is like that gooey, creamy sugar that I'm eating in my mouth. And it feels really, really weird. So yeah, so now let's talk about the chemical additives. Would you name a few additives that are most commonly used by the bakers, the commercial bakers mainly?
One of it I can think of is cake gels. Cake gels are something that people, they don't know what it is, right? So you use it. So but then there's also the saying, okay, we don't indulge every day. It's not too often. Once in a while, it's okay. Cake gel, it's okay. It's okay. But this once in a while thing is not really once in a while. If you look at it, everything that you consume, you need to be aware of. Like a lot of disease that is prevalent right now is because of what you eat, your diet. So at Lenovo, we ensure that these things are out, as far as possible, as much as possible. So I have a good night's sleep. My conscience is clear. So one of the main thing that I see in baking that people use is cake gels, colors, to make it look very attractive, to make it look visually appealing. People use fondants, and in that, a lot of colors, a lot of other things also go in. Now you might ask me, what can you do if you're not using cake gel, because the sponge will fall flat, it will come very, very thin. What can you do to make it fluffier naturally? One tip is the eggs. If you're using eggs and you beat it well, you can get the sponge really nice, fluffier and softer, how you want it. You can directly eliminate the cake gel. And basically even chocolates, since it's easily available, a lot of people make do with compounds. please don't use compounds. It's not even, it's actually, you're not even allowed to call chocolates chocolate if there's no a certain percentage of cocoa butter is not there. So you need that much amount of cocoa butter to call it a chocolate. So use real chocolates. That's another thing that I would say.
And so the new trend, I was saying that let us be the trendsetters. So the minimal cakes, they are really coming up now. So what are minimal cakes?
So no fondants, absolutely. Keep it very simple, basic, because people want to enjoy the cake. Of course, it looks prettier. I mean, it's a it's been a trend for a very long time, the fondants, and but as a manufacturer, come consumer, come baker, I would say keep it simple, because ultimately you're enjoying the cake for the taste, not for the looks. You'll end up eating it, it's going into your system. So use just minimal dairy cream to mask the cakes. Use a good sponge. I think that should, and use real fruits. For example, whatever you can make into a compote, cook it, layer it,
Mhm.
make a cake, and that's the essence of a good cake, right? Good fruit, good vanilla sponge, amazing chocolate. Use real chocolate, plain chocolates, no colors. uh, that's the job.
Yeah, yeah. So whenever I cut the cake and when I see the layer and there is a, a line of that red compote or strawberry, it just, you just want to just eat it. You are so excited. Everyone is so excited. Mama, what is there inside? I want to see the layer.
Yeah,
So yeah. So
basically it's just fruits. So typically, like they say, a cake has to have a minimum 5 layer, 5 layers. So we layer it. Maybe if we don't do 5 layers, then the layers are thicker. The fruit is just like a thick layer of fruit, and then we kind of keep it with the cake, the vanilla sponge.
mhm. Would you like to share some more ideas on how to, make the cake? Because yeah, people do look for the beauty. So, any more ideas you would like to share with the bakers?
Mm, see, I mean, I would only say that be consistent and keep it basic, because ultimately there's a lot of pressure. I understand that, because people want it visually appealing. People say, okay, I want this theme. I'm having a theme party. I need mermaids. I need this. I need that. Of course, but we don't do it because of whatever reason. It's tough. It is definitely tough. But having said that, if you stick to your own policies, as in your own etiquettes, your own integrity, and build upon it slowly, you will eventually get there where people will prefer cakes. Cakes from you than, or anything what you make from you, than the market, because you would have set the trend, you've been consistent, you're using honest ingredients. Ultimately that's what you need. I mean, you need to one would like to consume, right, in the long run. So yeah.
Okay, let's. So we are almost like it's 4:30. So let's start with some questions. So Pranjana is asking, how do you ship your chocolates to faraway places?
So we use gel packs, ice gel packs, which we wrap it up in a box and then ship it. So it's a challenge. Again, I'm saying it. We've taken time to figure this out. You have to do it like step by step. You'll eventually. It's not rocket science. Definitely not. You just use gel packs, pack it well, seal it, and send it. It will. It's good to go for about 48 hours. It's no issues.
Okay. And Priya is asking, do you use sugar, alcohol, sorbitol, dextrose, etc. for your confections?
Sorry, come again. Which sorbitol? No, we don't use sorbitol.
Sugar, alcohol, dextrose, etc. for your confections.
No, none of it.
Okay. What do they do exactly to the product? Because I don't know much about this sorbitol and dextrose. How do they enhance the product?
So sorbitol basically is a sugar substitute, right? I am not sure. I've not used it to know more about it, but I know that these are all like either you substitute something to make it either. I mean, sorbitol definitely is for something. I think is for making it sweet, but none of it. See, a good cake. What does it require? Eggs, flour, vanilla, cream. These
Right.
are the ingredients, and you don't need more.
Yeah,
And of course, sugar.
exactly. Okay, do you, Pranjana is asking, do you use natural colors for chocolates too? If yes, can you please suggest the brands?
For chocolates, we don't use any color at all because if you look at our range, if you go on our website and log on to Linui, you will see that all our chocolates have no colors, absolutely. Pastries, we use a few colors, which is naturally derived from either beets, um, leaves, or carrots. And there is a brand in India which now makes very good. We have even a Belgian brand which is a little expensive, but there are colors that they make which is very interesting. But we don't really use them much. What we use, you can try. Arun. I can put it in the link somewhere.
Yeah, please, if you can send the link for the natural color.
I will do that. Yes.
And would you recommend any chocolates that we can use, the couverture ones? Any
Uh,
specific
you
brands?
want to say for baking? You can order with us. No problem. We'll send. We have baking chocolate. That's what I'm saying.
Right, right. Okay, yeah, that was amazing, Anusha. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Abba. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm really hoping so. The main objective of this session is to just keep spreading the word that please respect your body and don't put unnecessary stuff in your system. And we are really lucky that now there are so many home bakers and entrepreneurs like Anusha who are really trying hard to give the best product for your celebration. So I would humbly request, please stop using compound chocolates, please stop using non-dairy whipping cream and artificial colors. If we can just start with these three ingredients, then we can make a huge difference in our products. And yeah, at the end, we have to be conscious and we have to be authentic in whatever we are giving to the customer. So thank you so much, Anusha, again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Everyone, thanks for joining. We will see what is next in Conscious Baking Collective. I'll keep you posted. A very good evening. See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.